Hi, Paul here with Kinetico Advanced Water Systems up in Richmond, Virginia. This isn't exactly designed for a homeowner because what we're going to do is a meter disc change on a piece of Kinetico non-electric equipment. And a meter disc change would only be needed if there's let's say you have to go in and replace some of the other components inside there, like springs or pawls, or the control disc down below. Let's say your water quality changes and it becomes a lot harder, or if it's a filter unit, you need it to clean more or less often. That's the only time that you would want to get in and actually change the meter disc out. So, without wasting any more time, we're going to go ahead and take out these 8 screws. And you always do the same type pattern, opposites, to kind of evenly release pressure on everything. Don't be tempted to use power screwdrivers on this. Power is going to be problems. This is all, at the end of the day, it's plastic. So you're going to want to use hand tools. That's kind of why I'm doing this in the video, to show you that it really isn't that difficult. And the only tool that you really need is the multi-screwdriver. So, once we pull out the screws, we'll just dump those to the side. You want to make sure that you don't lose anything. This, if it's still intact, you could just set it out of the way. This is the meter disc. So the meter disc basically rotates, and this eccentric pin rotates around kind of like a wheel on an old-fashioned locomotive, and it basically makes a little ratcheting action. And there's a spring down in there that keeps this pressed tight so that you don't lose any forward motion. And then you have a no back pawl right here, which basically just drops in a little tooth and keeps this thing from going back where it was, otherwise you just wouldn't advance. But over the course of using water, this disc slowly rotates. And as it's counting, it's going to control how many cleaning cycles in a complete revolution. Now, this has a 4 disc in it, and as you might imagine, one complete revolution has 4 cleaning cycles. So, you can just pop that out of there, and if you look at the back, you'll actually see there are 4 spots where it's going to drop in. That's actually going to drop in, and it's going to start the control disc to do its regeneration process. So, like I said, unless you're changing out one of these components or changing this out, you really will never have to do this after the initial setup. So, the only real tricky part about this is making sure that you don't lose pieces. This one over here, it's got a little indentation over there that catches on this little tip of a spring. This is the most important part, because you got to make sure that the little sawtooth is facing inward and that you are able to engage that little spring head inside this little groove. So you got to put it in, kind of point it towards the middle, just so that it's going to catch on there, and then hold it down. You have to use your fingernail or something else, and then you're going to rotate that out, and if I release, see how it springs? That means it's on there. So at this point, we don't want it to move, so I use my fingernail to hold it in position. And then that little, that pawl down below, I always line that up with one of these grooves. So, see how it fits nicely in there? Then you can release the pressure, and it's not going to come off. Otherwise, these things are going to jump out of there. So that's as simple as it is. We've just changed it out with another one if you needed to, or another one of the same if it was damaged. The next piece that goes in is your spring, and then your the button goes on top of there. Make sure that you can either put the O-ring on the button, or you can shove it down into the control disc itself. Doesn't matter. And then just set that right on top, straight, if I can get it straight. Come on. There we go. And the only tricky part is putting this back together without that popping off. So very carefully, this piece is going to go down in there, but you don't want to bump that arm. So we're going to, come on, get in there. It's hard to do from an angle. There. All right, it's in. I haven't budged it. And then I'm just going to simply push everything down, and I'm going to hold it while I put in 2 screws. And you don't just grab these screws and start screwing them in. The first thing you do is you go backwards, just barely, and you feel how it can drop down in there, because this is plastic and you don't want to cut new fresh holes. Once you get it where it's going, then you move to the other side. And you go by feel. After doing this a few times, you'll know. Once 2 of them are in there, you can let go and then just simply install the other 4 screws, just like so. Done. Done. One, 2, 3, and 4. You can tell it's just finger tight. You'll know it. If it feels tough, that means you're not in the groove. All finished. Then the only other thing that's left is to turn the unit on, and basically you're going to make sure that it meters. So you're going to want to run water out the outlet somewhere in the house, and then you're going to wait for the eccentric pin to do its thing and advance the disc you just put in. And the only way to really do that with great visibility is to watch this no back pawl, and it's going to ride on up and then click. And when it clicks, you know that you're metering. If it rides back up and then slides back down, that means that something's wrong, and this is not, your spring probably popped off. So that's it, just as simple as that. Thanks.